What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. We're here on the channel again, and you're here for the Toyota Stout. Obviously, you saw by the title of this video, we're doing a walk around of Jaime's 1967 Toyota Stout. There's been a lot of questions about it. You guys have seen it in a ton of the content, and Jaime loves this thing. He built it himself. So let us do a walk around of it. You guys, I'm gonna pretend like I've never seen it before and ask all the questions that you guys have been asking. Get him to show you the ins and outs of it and why it's so reliable, why it's his daily driver, and how it keeps up to everything on the highway. Although I was around and filmed most of the stuff that Jaime did do to this truck, so I know the ins and outs and all about it, I'm going to kind of pretend that I don't know about it so that we can talk about it, ask some questions, get into it about all the stuff that you guys might want to know about it. So I'm going to be off camera. I'm just going to let Jaime do his thing and we're going to get into it. So, all right. Are you ready?
Is anyone ever ready? No? Okay.
Okay, so first off, what is it? Where did it come from?
So it is a 1967 Toyota Stout. It is a first generation Toyota pickup into the United States. It is on a 2003 Tacoma chassis, and the truck originally came from Oceanside.
Oceanside, California. What did it start its life out as?
It was, and this is hearsay, it started off as a docks truck in Long Beach. It was then retired about 5 years into service. The lead mechanic bought the truck. He lived in Oceanside.
So when you say a dock truck, it like moved pallets around? Oh, okay.
Pallets from the containers, from the ships onto storage.
It's basically had a very saltwater.
Yeah, it was by the water its entire life until 5 years ago or so, which is why there's the rust is so heavy and penetrated throughout the metal of the entire truck. You see the rain gutters and the roof, everything's rotted all the way through. That's where all of the rust came from. Getting the truck initially, I was just gonna motor swap and then drive it the way it was because it was a complete truck. Every single thing on the truck was there.
How did you end up with this?
So I bought the truck from my buddy Tim. He bought it off of OfferUp, believe it or not. And he had it for a short term. I told him, when you're ready to sell it, let me know. And I knew he wouldn't, but then he decided to build a 4Runner, so then he offered me the truck. And it was bone stock the way he got it. He tried to get it to run. It turned over, but he realized that it needed engine work, so it's that. I got the truck thinking it just needed a motor swap and realized that the whole underside of the truck was completely rotted. So then...
And when you say the underside, like, you mean the body, the chassis, like, all of it is rusted?
Like the floorboards, the bottom of the fenders were completely rotted through. There was no mounting points for the fenders on the bottom or the bed mounts. The whole floor, you can stick your foot through the floor.
Like Flintstones?
Yeah. Nothing was savable. So then that's when I, went to Plan B and sourced a 2003 Toyota Tacoma. I was running and driving and completely stripped the top end of it off. And by top end, I mean the cab, the fenders, all the sheet metal besides the firewall and the floor were cut apart.
Bro, what are you doing?
And then I dropped the Stout cab over the top of that.
Okay, so I know that a lot more had to go into it than just dropping it on. But before we get into all of that, what engine comes in this normally?
I believe it's a R6 or something.
What is that?
Similar.
I'm
So
sure
it's
the
like-
majority of the audience has
it's like
no
the
idea what that is.
equivalent to like a forklift engine.
So you know how at all these shops that you go to and warehouses that you go to, it's always a Toyota forklift? Well, this is the
Granddaddy of them.
the original
Mama San.
forklift.
This is Mama San forklift.
So, okay, so obviously then it doesn't have the forklift engine in it anymore. So why don't we get into it? You show us what's going on in there.
On a 2003 Tacoma chassis, or what started off as.
It's like the sneaky spot.
So with that comes a 2003 2RZ 2.4 liter engine with everything that's attached to it.
Okay, so this was in a 2003 Tacoma.
Yes.
And so then...
I mean, it technically still is, because the firewall and the floor are still from the Tacoma, and they're still factory body mounts from the Tacoma to the chassis.
Yeah, because you can see here, this whole firewall situation, this is obviously not a old Stout. This is all newer sheet metal. This up here then is this.
So the black, this flat section is the inner structure of the Tacoma wiper cowl assembly. So this is normally inside. There's like a structure wall that goes here. The wiper motor goes here, and then the assembly behind it for the wipers go in this area. So all that was cut out, and then the Stout sheet metal begins at the bottom of the cowl.
Okay,
You can
so
see
even the cowl here comes over the Tacoma stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the Stout is significantly higher than the Tacoma, would you say?
It's more, it's bulkier, it's more square. So then, like, even this piece I had to make to just fill the gap between the
Okay, so
Stout
this is a
cowl.
metal piece that you made.
Yeah, and then I riveted and tapped, and
Also this sticker here.
that represents this truck.
If you want one, go to looseandlost.com. That's our homie. Badass sticker. Anyways, continuing on. So I'm gonna come around you here on this side.
Okay.
The light's a little bit better. So then the obviously Stout on the fenders here, the sheet metal and whatnot. So then is this sheet metal? This was, you made this.
So I made this because obviously this engine is a lot larger and the firewall is in a different position from the Tacoma to the Stout. The fans and the radiator wouldn't work with the stock Stout core support, so I recessed my Tacoma radiator about 4 inches, which worked great with the electric fans with clearance, but now the radiator was in the way of the hood locking pin assembly, so that had to get moved 4 inches in.
So this is where your hood latches
So this
to.
is now where my hood latch
And this is the obviously a newer latch.
This is from like the, you find them online for like any like typical hot rod build.
Oh, okay.
It's the whole assembly that's under here comes with this assembly, and then I just made it, modified it so that it lines up and fits, and welded all this in, and so that the hood closes properly without having to use hood pins, because nobody likes hood pins.
Yeah. Forget hood pins.
No, hood pins are the easy way out.
But speaking about things latching and going together then, so your hood itself then, does it bolts directly to the Tacoma down here?
Correct.
But
So
these latches, like the hinges.
So the hinges are the stock Stout hinges, and then I tapped the sheet metal on the Tacoma for them to mount to the Tacoma sheet metal, but then I spaced the hood up about 3/4 of an inch so that it lines up to the rest of the front end.
Okay.
Closing properly, then lining that up to the front end, and everything being square.
Speaking of lining up though, so when you got the Tacoma, right, and then you had the Stout, do you have a measurement of the length? Because I know that a lot of people look at this build and they think, oh, you just took the body of it and put it on top of the other chassis, and then just ran the shifter through the floor and off you went and ran to some wiring. But that wasn't the case. So do you have like how big of a difference the length or whatnot for these? Like, did you measure them before you?
So center to center wheelbase, I think, was about 1.5 inch difference.
Okay.
The Tacoma being shorter, 1.5 inches.
That is a big difference,
Yeah.
honestly. And you wouldn't think the Tacoma would be the shorter
You would
one.
think the Stout would be
because
shorter.
the Stout is so short and
Yeah, it's just the positioning of the fender. These have really long fenders, so the nose on these is really long as opposed to the nose on the Tacoma. And then the cab is shorter, so then it's a weird difference in measuring, but the center to center wheelbase wasn't too far off.
So how do you make that work then when one truck is longer than the other, obviously?
So I knew when going into this project I was gonna do adjustable suspension. So the harder part for me would be to center the front, and then I can build the back to accommodate what I need. So I centered my front wheel to my front fender, and then that landed the cab where it landed at, so then I can sheet metal the cab, Stout sheet metal to the Tacoma sheet metal, making that a sound fixture. And then from there, that landed my rear wheel 1.5 inches forward in my wheel well. But once I did the air ride with the wishbone and the adjustable links, I was able to take out that difference and center my rear wheel.
Okay.
So then that took up the difference.
And
on the back
we'll
end.
get to that in a second. We'll take a look at that. But so firewall, here's Tacoma, then we go up into the Stout, into the cab. So why don't we go around the side and you show us a little bit of how things got married in the center here. So
I don't know if you're able to pick it up, but in here where the Stout cowl drops down to the flat section, you can see there's a weld mark. That's where I mated both sections together. You can see it a little bit in there. So then that's where, and that's just the way I did it. I mean, there's other ways that you can do it.
But it's not just marrying it there. Where else did you have to do it as well?
Everything, the top, the sides, the bottom, everything had to be joined. So then in here, I took it out inside this pinch right here. So then that pinch all the way down is sheet metaled behind the fender.
So, sorry, this piece of metal is all like
That's
new.
Stout.
This is Stout?
That's Stout, and then this is Tacoma.
Okay, this is Stout.
Yes, and then that's Tacoma.
This is Tacoma. And then where does the Tacoma comes up to here?
No, it's behind the fender. So the cut goes over 2 inches back forward, and then it goes up like this, joining the bottom of the cowl.
Okay. And then going through in here, was this all rotted before?
So from about here down was rotted, and I had to build all this structure out of fresh sheet metal, and then build the pocket for the lower hinge. So if you look further back on my Instagram, you'll be able to see all the pictures of all that metal work that had to be done just for the door to properly close and
because these
open.
are the hinges from a Stout.
Correct.
To make the door work for it.
Correct.
Okay. And the hinges that you had, they were pretty decent. They didn't.
Yeah, the hinges themselves were fine. It's just the sheet metal that they mounted to was just completely rotted away.
So going into then the cab, where are we marrying things together in the cab? Obviously, we can kind of tell, but
yeah. So you can see my tack marks here. So this part is Stout, which joins the rocker to the front and the rear of the cab.
Mm-hmm.
And then up here is the Tacoma. So this strip of sheet metal was added to join both, and it's structured on the bottom side as well.
So this you had to rework, obviously, because you were saying that earlier and telling everyone how it was so rotted on the underside that this didn't exist.
Yeah, no, that's all new metal that I had to roll and weld in place. So to
add structure.
Yes.
What other structure points did you have to add to the cab? Did you have to add?
So I was able to keep the stock cross member in the front for the Tacoma that mounts the steering column and all the center section assembly with like the heater core and the AC assembly. So then I just added this 1x2 square
Right here?
from the ground up to the top, tying everything together just to give it a little bit extra structure. Because you're taking, two vehicles that didn't exist as one and trying to make it work.
Yes.
Structural wise.
Yeah, of course. Of course. As we work our way back, we're noticing the back wall here. Can you talk to us about that? and why you would have done this?
So I did this because, like I said, it's on a Tacoma chassis, and I used the floorboard from the Tacoma. The floor of the Tacoma was 4 inches longer than the floor of the Stout. So instead of cutting the floor at the Stout end and moving my cab mounts forward, I extended the back wall of the Stout 4 inches, retaining the factory Tacoma cab mounts. So if I ever need to pull the cab, I just undo the 4 mounts and the whole cab comes off like stock.
Okay.
Also, by doing that, I was able to give myself a cubby hole behind the bench seat.
Okay, so back there you have extra room.
Yeah, and I'll show you.
Okay.
And that I can put subwoofer or miscellaneous, tools or whatnot fit back here without losing
What's
space,
What's
back
this
space.
seat from?
The seat is from a 76 Toyota pickup, like flatbed, like work truck.
It's just
to find that original condition.
All the Toyotas.
Yeah.
In one. All the Toyotas. Because, yeah, your column and stuff is...
The column is from a 2002 pre-runner, so it's tilt. So I did that so that I can accommodate for the height difference of the Stout dash into the Tacoma floor.
Okay, so column is the pre-runner. The dash itself is the Stout. The seats are the 76 Toyota pickup. It's a 2003 Tacoma. It's a 67 Stout. What were the mirrors from?
The mirrors are from mid 80s, like Toyota car.
Okay.
Corolla, I think, or something. I'm not even sure.
Hey,
It came from the junkyard.
you're keeping it in the family. Yeah. Okay, so in doing the back wall, because I know people are going to ask this, did the back wall itself, this part, and this part, is that part of the Tacoma or the Stout? Like that?
No, so
that.
All this back wall, including this vertical sheet metal, is the original piece from the Stout. The flat sections are new sheet metal that I added and structured. The whole inside's all structured as well. I did that so that once I do sheet metal, the rest of my bed, it's gonna get covered, so you're never gonna see any of that. It'll just be an extra storage space on the inside, but the backside will be covered with the rest of the bed sheet metal.
Moving into the bed then, because you just told us a little bit about it, you have this structure. You're talking about
Correct.
sheet metaling it. This structure goes around the entire...
Correct. So the whole bed was rusted so badly that I pretty much cut everything out besides the bed skins and the tailgate.
Okay, let's look at some of this rust. Let's see here. Yeah, if you guys can see it's and it's thin. Like this is, it's thin. It's like you can't weld to it, really.
But also this metal is penetrated so bad that there's no welding to it, and if you do, it's not going to be structurally sound or good.
Yeah.
So what I did was I built a 1x1 skeletal structure that the bed sides bolt to. So then now, because the structure is new metal, I'm able to weld to it and build what I need to build, which is adding these square tubs and this wood bed floor. So under this is a complete 1x1 structure,
Which is like this.
which is the same as this.
Sorry, it's like
And
this.
the only reason this is still exposed is just because I haven't finished the sheet metal. I work on this myself. I build it myself. So whatever I can get done on the weekend's time when I have time.
It's also
gets
your
done.
daily driver. Like you're
And
not.
I drive this to work every day.
Yeah, like it people don't realize, like he runs this thing down the highway every single day, driving it. Like it gets him to and from work. But anyways, going back to, so these are from like a trailer?
These are just trailer fenders. Yeah, they're generic to, you can buy them at any trailer supply. They're just square trailer fenders. I cut them to fit my application.
Normally you see these and they are rounded.
They're rounded, yeah, like a half moon.
Yeah.
I did the square ones because the stock fender or wheel tubs in these trucks are square.
Yeah.
So I just did these so that it kind of just fit more of like the stock aesthetic of
It
what the truck was.
definitely matches what the...
Yeah, because I feel like the round ones, as cool as they would be, it would stand out more.
Yeah.
So these just give it more of like a stock look.
And they really tuck these under there.
And the tire like barely has, I can't even fit my fingers between the tire and the actual fender. So the tires are wedged in there.
What size are they?
So the rears are 18 by 11s and the fronts are 18 by 8s. They're intros.
Okay.
2-piece custom welded billets.
To make these fit, so I know while we were up at the front, you were talking about how with the difference of length in the trucks, you had to make up for it and whatnot. And now that we're in the back here, we're seeing a sneak peek of what's going on for your back half of this truck. Do you want to dive into some of that and how you made the width of these work and what went on?
Okay.
Yeah.
So knowing I was going to do air ride or adjustable suspension, I kind of set it up to where I would take up the difference once I got to that. So once I got the truck running and driving and I knew that it was sound, I then got into cutting it apart. Because why not, right? So I cut the frame right at the back wall of the cab, right behind the cab mounts. And I used that as a measuring point to build this back half section, which is 2x4 metal. With some 1.5-inch round tube and some bag cups. It's all welded in place to fit the differential, which is a 76 Toyota pickup 1-ton. It's the narrowest rear end that Toyota makes. So it is a factory part, factory gears, everything is rebuilt, but it is about 7 inches narrower than stock Tacoma differential. So I'm able to fit the 18 by 11 zero offset wheels under the bed between the frame rail and still be able to bolt up to my stock drive shaft.
And you know what, like so many people use these Toyota diffs for things because they're narrower and then they're also have been really reliable. You see them in lowriders and Impalas and all sorts of things. So I mean, they're just a great option for a rear end anyways. So why not keep it Toyota and as narrow as possible. All the Toyotas. But with the back half, I'm sure there's going to be a couple people out there that recognize parts of it. I know that you cut the majority of it off. Kind of like what I did with my truck. You bring it and then you just cut everything off of it and just use the main structure. What was the story on the original structure of this?
So this back half frame section was originally built by Max Fish at Bio Customs for Mike, Low Life Mike. And it was a build that they were doing in Mini Truck Magazine.
What year?
Like early 2000s.
Okay.
Like early 2000s.
So like 20 years ago.
Like 20 years ago. So, yeah. So the truck was being built for Mini Truck Magazine, and they were documenting the entire thing. And it had crazy cantilever airbags with the bag sat out over here in the front. And the project didn't get finished. It got scrapped. The truck got cut apart, and everything disappeared.
And then this resurfaced.
Many years down the line, I was at a buddy's house and I saw the frame section in his backyard in the weeds and the mud, and it was just covered in mud and a foot deep in mud. And I asked him what he was doing with it. He was like, "Oh, I'm not. It's just I'm gonna build it one day, but it's been 20 years and it just sat." So I was able to get that from him. I cut off the stuff that I wasn't gonna use, had it sandblasted, and then I built everything on the frame structure.
Because when it showed up, it was very rusty as well. I mean, it probably would have matched the rest of the aesthetic of the truck. Yeah. I mean, but to weld on it and do all the things you needed to do to it, it didn't make sense to leave it. But yeah, some of the structure of it is obviously there, but the majority of it then you went and changed.
Yeah, like the outside frame rails and then the center cross member is what Max had built. And with his blessing, after I received the back half, he was stoked for somebody to actually do something with it because it was built so many years ago.
Yeah.
And just kind of disappeared, and nobody knew whatever happened to it. So I knew what it was. I probably could have saved my time and just built frame rails, but the fact that I was able to use that part from an old build,
it kind of was cool.
I don't know. I just wanted to do that and save a little bit of mini truck history with, actually put it to use and drive it.
And going from that, obviously then the main focus here is your air ride setup. Can you dive into some of that for us then too? Because I mean, we talked about the back half, but we didn't really talk about what you're using here for your air.
So for all my air ride, I have Hoppos air ride. My tank is the HHT billet 5-gallon tank that they make in-house. That is, you can take the whole thing apart, powder coat, polish, whatever you want, the components. They make all the bracketry, which is this bracket that mounts to the tank that holds your compressors, it holds your manifold. In any configuration you want, you can move these to the center, you can flip them upside down, you can put the manifold on top. Whatever you want to do, you can put this on the back side. It fits just about any application that you want to put it on. And yeah, you can change whatever color you can change the tank, you know, whatever color. You can polish or chrome or engrave the parts, depending on what you want. That's what I have here. That's holding my air. I have some 485 Vire compressors and then a slam manifold with the billet cover by Hoppos.
So then an interesting piece of this whole thing is obviously this big wishbone, which if you're familiar with the lowrider scene and what Hoppos makes, normally you'll see these in Impalas, but flipped the other way. So yeah. What is going on with this then as part of the setup?
When I approached Alex about building something similar for this, he was like, well, we have this, you know, in our system. This is what we built for the Impalas. I believe it's 59 to 64. It's a stock part that you can interchange to the X chassis for the Impalas. But it's something that they already had in their system that they can cut out of a solid block of billet aluminum. So I then took that part and then measured and built everything to accommodate the travel suspension for that part, which worked out great because at ride height, which is only about an inch taller than this, I'm sitting at 0 degrees on my drive shaft pinion angle, and there's no vibration. It rides just fine.
Does this then take out having an upper link? So you have the lower link obviously down here.
Correct.
Right? So this takes out having the upper, like an upper link. So this is your upper links essentially.
Correct. So then typically like any adjustable vehicle would have like a 4-link.
Yeah.
Which is like the common. So then the 2 lower links, and then there would be 2 top links which would be triangulated. So now the wishbone essentially just takes up the 2 top links, triangulating it in one.
Yeah.
So
it's cleaner.
And it's just cleaner. There's less mess. And then my bags are mounted on my lower bars, which are adjustable, where I took difference out in the length of the Stout to Tacoma difference. And then it just rides on the lower links. And I have some Bilstein shocks mounted on the back end of them, so it rides pretty good.
Heck yeah. Okay, so then now that we've seen your suspension setup, the cab, how things had got married, the cab to the Tacoma, you did your wood bed floor.
Correct.
We have the sheet metal for the outer of your box is being held by the skeleton. So then going into it, you have your Stout tailgate, but it's solid enough that it doesn't need the skeleton, or is the skeleton running underneath the bed here? Or
no, so the tailgate, it latches on the bottom like stock, and then it hinges on the bottom like stock, and then it latches on the sides from the stock hinges. And on this side, you can see the structure continued throughout.
Okay.
I have my 14-gallon fuel cell and my full throttle battery back here.
This battery runs your air ride.
Everything.
And it runs everything in your engine as well.
Yes.
Because there is no battery up in your engine bay.
No, there isn't. This battery is more than plenty to control the air ride system, the truck, and then the little bit of stereo that's in it.
Yeah, it's not like this dude
plenty
over there that needs a zillion of them.
No.
It just has one. And then this fuel cell, is it similar to what a stock size would be for this, or is it bigger?
It's 14-gallon capacity, which is stock capacity. So I was able to make the stock sending unit fit inside of the fuel cell, so it reads properly on my gauges. So
that's awesome.
About wondering if I'm running out of gas or not.
Where do you fill it from?
I made this hinge system here so that I can open.
Oh, look at this.
And I can fill
little notch
my gas to the top of my fuel cell from there, and not have anything gnarly popping up, you know, when the tailgate is closed.
You know what we missed on the back? Taillights.
Okay. So
Tell us about the tail
These
lights.
tail lights are made by Vic at Mini Truck Revival. He has these made in clear. Obviously, these never existed in clear. They were tricolor, so they were red, yellow, and then clear for reverse.
Are they for the Stout originally?
They are from a 76 to 79 Toyota pickup.
Okay.
So those normally come upright, and then there's a chrome trim that goes around them. I then took just the lens of it and then made that fit on the bottom where the stock Stout taillights went, which were a little bit smaller, so I had to open up the mounting points and make those work. But those are all wired into the stock Tacoma harness, so the brake lights work, reverse lights work, running light, all that fun stuff.
And then, so now that we've seen the tail light, let's look at my least favorite part of this entire... You know what, I have to tell you, it's not that it's my least favorite part of this build, because it's a very high quality, really nice, you should probably get them too type of thing. But I particularly do not like driving anywhere near this truck at night. Anyways, long story short, these headlights.
So we have the both options that Holly carries for their retro bright lights. We have the clears, and then we have the yellow lights. The clears I'm running on my switch, so I have high beam, low beam, and then the yellow ones I have as an auxiliary light, which just helps with driving at night. These things are super bright.
They are
really, really bright.
They're so bright. Driving, when he is driving behind me, I will call him and be like, can you please get in front of me? I can't see anything, because they blind everything on the road. They're crazy. So what were these lights then originally for a Stout? Sorry, I should probably film what I'm pointing at. What are these lights for the Stout?
No, so I mean, I'm assuming they were marker lights from factory. So what I did was I took like I said, the whole underside's Tacoma, so the wire harness was all there. So I ran the turning signal wiring into these bulbs, so now these work as my functional turning signals.
Cool.
So these work, those work, everything works.
Everything works.
Runs and drives.
Runs and drives. Like we have mentioned, this is probably one of the more reliable vehicles in the fleet. Gets you to and from work every single day. Yep. And whatnot. There's someone creeping in the background.
You're checking your car out.
Oh, here he comes. Here he comes.
Are you guys open right now?
I think they're lost.
Yeah.
Maybe they just like Toyota Stouts. Maybe they're just Toyota people too.
That? Oh, then another thing up here.
Oh yeah, tell us.
So this front bumper is normally like a foot out and sticks out.
Oh, I forgot about this whole thing.
There's so many things.
There's so many things with this truck that you forget things.
So I took 4 inches. No, I took 3 inches out of this section, which you can see where I welded it back together.
Yeah.
And then I took 4 inches out of this section. So this
on both sides.
On both sides,
mind you, not just the one side.
This was over here, and then this was out
way
here.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. So
because these bumpers like look.
They're ugly. But
I mean that's honest.
The whole truck.
The truck is not ugly.
It's got character. So then by narrowing it and sectioning it, I was able to tuck the bumper in a little bit more, giving it just a little bit more of a finished look, even though it's still rusty and whatever. But it fits the front
fits it way better. It's just clean and tucked up and in. It's not all, because it was kind of a bit crooked before and sitting off.
3 pieces. So then this piece bolts onto here with this bolt. So then it's like they're never really straight. And then these trucks were, they were made for work. So they got beat up and abused and never really looked out for. So.
Okay. There you have it. You guys were wondering about the Stout. You're asking a bunch of questions about it. Why is it so reliable? Why has it been so great to us? Why was he able to drive it 4.5 hours to Visalia? I learned actually from you guys in the comments that it's Visalia, not Visalia. Maybe that's just my Canadian wants to call it Visalia, but apparently it's Visalia. Sorry to everybody that lives there, because we like your town. Didn't mean to do that. But yeah, Jaime was able to drive this there and back twice. So round trip, that's like 9 hours for this little truck. And it did incredible, just smooth sailing there and back. But yeah, this is the Toyota Stout, also Tacoma-ish. If you have any other questions about it, drop them below in the comments. We'll be more than happy to try and answer as many of them as we can. We're also going to be doing an updated video of it at some point that we can go over maybe some of the other questions as well, because Jaime still has a lot of things that he wants to do to this truck. As mentioned before, he's going to sheet metal in the bed. He wants to do some upgrades to this engine.
Yeah, we're gonna spice it up a little bit.
Spice it up a little bit. How many miles are on it right now?
233,000 miles. So I mean, it still has life in it the way it is.
Yeah.
If I don't have to do anything to it right now, I'm not going to until I have to. But at some point, I'm going to run out of other stuff to do. So
why not? Why not? It's just going to be taking different forms like any project. If you're out there and you've ever built anything, you know that they just take many different forms over time, and things change, and you put other ideas and love into it. So it's going to change over time, and you guys are going to come along for the ride for that as well. So we'll do an updated video, but that's Jaime's 1967 Toyota Stout. Thanks for watching. Drop us a comment, like, comment, share. You know how it goes. And we'll catch you on the next thing. Let us know if you want us to show you any of the other vehicles in the fleet and do a little bit of a build breakdown, because we're happy to show you those too. So, bye.